Hello, grade 7. Good morning. All right, we will begin this week with your literature class. You will have me, Teacher Frances, as we go through your lessons all throughout this week. Are you ready, grade 7? Great. So, as we cover your 2-day literature classes, you should have with you your student anthology, your literary companion, and your pen. Okay? Your new selection is entitled The Ancient Middle East from Ancient Computing Technology from Abacuses to Water Clocks. This selection is covered on your student anthology on pages 342 to 350. For our learning objectives this week, you are expected to identify the central idea in the text, answer critical thinking questions, and learn and apply the reading skill on providing an objective summary. We will start with your unlocking of difficulties. This is the set of words that you will meet as you go through the text. We will define them one by one, and you have to be acquainted with the definition of each. Okay? Great. Okay, our first word, archaeologists. Say, archaeologists. Good job. These are the scientists that find information about the past. They study humanity's material remains. Archaeologists. Our second word, artifacts. Say, artifacts. These are objects from the past. They are also made by human, typically one of cultural or historical interest. These are artifacts. Our next word is astronomer. Say, astronomer. Nice. He is also a scientist, but he studies stars and planets. He's not the same with archaeologist. Okay, say astronomer. Next, say commercial. It is related to running a business. Commercial. Say primitive. Good. Primitive. This means at an early stage of development of something. It could be evolutionary or historical. Say primitive. And for our last word, surplus. Say surplus. Very good. It is related to extra. Extra means an excess amount. That's surplus. I can see that you are ready to read your new selection for this week. The Ancient Middle East, from Ancient Computing Technology, from Abacuses to Water Clocks. Open your student anthology on page 342 to 350. Before you begin, allow me to give you a short background of the text. Early humans were hunter-gatherers. They lived in groups in specific areas, hunting, fishing, and gathering available plants. Once these sources of food were used up, they moved to a new place with more resources. These ancient people didn't have a pressing need for mathematical systems of measurement. It was fairly easy to keep count of most things on fingers or toes, or to measure length with the hand or foot. However, as more hunter-gatherers began to settle in the same area, rather than move around, standard units of measure became a necessity. People then developed consistent ways of measuring precise quantities of goods or land for buying and selling. Eventually, these systems of measurement became very sophisticated. All right, now I am encouraging you to start reading the text. It's your turn. Open your student anthology on pages 342 to 350. Take your time in reading. Good work, grade 7. Now it's our time to study each critical thinking questions. Are you ready? Open your student anthology on page 351. For our first critical thinking question, explain what is the connection between surveying and map making in the ancient Middle East? Start thinking for your answer. Great work! Try to check your answer. Surveying and map making provided a way to measure and record property boundaries. In surveying, it established the borders of farmers' fields and other properties, whereas in map making, it recorded the location of these boundaries over a wide area, which helped prove ownership. Next, summarize. In 2 or 3 sentences, summarize the events that caused the need for standard measurement in the ancient Middle East. Start writing your answer now. Alright, check your answer, students. People stopped the hunter-gatherer lifestyle and began settling into specific areas. They needed forms of standard measurement for tasks. Can you still remember these tasks? Great! From what you have read, these tasks are counting and trading crops, measuring land, and tracking the growing season. Now, you have to infer what problems might Babylonian merchants have encountered when using cubits as units of measure. Take your time. How about your answer? Great work! A cubit is defined as the distance from a man's elbow to the tip of his middle finger. From the definition alone, you could see that it's not standardized. So, it could lead to inconsistent measurements and pricing, causing conflicts. Conflicts to whom? Okay, conflicts between merchants and customers. Question number 4. Draw conclusions. Why did the Babylonians most likely use smooth stones as their standard unit of weight measurement? Cite evidence from the text. Start answering. Good job! Check your answer. The stones could be standardized by grinding and polishing them as what used in the text to make sure each weighed the same. So, this made business transactions more accurate. Number 5. Analyze. The invention of the sundial was a breakthrough in measuring time. First question. How did Berosus use the sundial to develop the concept of the 24-hour day? And next one, what limitations does a sundial have in measuring time? Start writing your answer. Good analysis, grade 7. Compare your answer. Berosus changed the shape of the sundial, adding a bowl marked with lines. Do you still remember? What are these lines for? Okay, these lines were the first markers of what we know as hours. 12 lines on the bowl marked out 12 hours or half of a day. Okay, how about for the limitations? Okay, you can change the sundial at night or on really cloudy days. You can see the shadow cast by the gnomon. Finally, for our last number, one more analysis. First, describe the organizational structure of this informational text. Then, how does this pattern help readers understand the text's central ideas? Okay, see your answer. First, a heading introduces a topic of each section. The authors discuss systems of measurement one by one. And then, organizing the text by topic allows readers to focus on each one to determine the author's central idea about the topic. Great work! Okay, moving on with your reading skill. Provide an objective summary. Open your literary companion on pages 210 and 211. Now, let us know what an objective summary is. An objective summary briefly presents the central ideas and most important details in a text. In order for a summary to be objective, put in your mind it must be free from judgments and expressions of the writer's personal opinion. To prepare to write an objective summary, take note of the concepts and related details that reappear in a text. They point to the central ideas of the writing. As you read, think about these central ideas are developed and how they are related. Okay, in a text, whenever you make an objective summary, it simply focuses on the central ideas and the repeated or the reappeared details in a text. Alright, this is what I am talking about on the previous slide. Let's take a look at this example number 1, an excerpt from your text or selection this week. Farmers in the ancient Middle East needed methods for counting crops, measuring land, and keeping track of the growing season. Because they traded crops and other goods with other groups of people, they needed scales and standard measurements. Take note of the underlined group of words. These are the underlined details from the text or your selection this week. You can see that details related to farming and measurement are important in these passages. Okay? Now, how about the details for this example number 2? The ancient Babylonians drew the first known maps in about 2300 BC. They carved them in wet clay to make clay tablets. Many of these maps were legal records of land ownership. They showed the size of farmers' fields. Same with that. On the first excerpt, same with the second excerpt, these details relate to farming and measurement, and this talks about the size of the farmer's fields. Okay? It is clearly stated, students, that on these two excerpts details, we could state our central ideas. For example, number one, based on the details, the different tasks, such as counting crops, measuring land, and keeping track of the growing season, farmers needed standard measurement to support those. Whereas in example number two, maps provided legal proofs that farmers owned certain areas of land. These maps showed the size of the farmers' fields, isn't it? So, we could do our objective summary. Farmers needed standard measurements and maps to succeed in their work. Understood? Good. Alright, students. Now it's your turn to practice and apply. Provide an objective summary. Read the excerpts from ancient computing, determine the central idea in each example, and write in the chart below found in your book. Let us read. Around 300 BC, a Babylonian astronomer named Berosus made a sundial with a curved base. Berosus' clock was so good that others like it were used for more than 1,000 years. Our modern system of 24-hour days, with 12 hours in the morning and 12 hours in the afternoon and evening, began with Berosus' system. The Mesopotamian numbering system was based on 60. Symbols on the tablets stood for 1 through 59. The symbol for 1 also stood for 60 or 3,600. 60 times 60, depending on its place in a number. Sound confusing? It's not really. In the same way, we can use a 1 to stand for 100. As in the number 156, this kind of number system is called a place value system. Alright, now complete the chart on your book. Put the central ideas for excerpt 1 and excerpt 2. Alright, let us now check. We have now our two excerpts central ideas. On the first one, the concept of 24-hour days that Berosus used in his clock is still used to measure time today. On our central idea number 2, the Mesopotamian system of numbers used the same concept of place value that we use today. Okay, now what common details do you see in both central ideas? How are they related? Great! Both central ideas mention ancient systems of measurement based on concepts that are still relevant today. Alright, for our number 3, use the central ideas in the chart to provide in a single sentence an objective summary of the information given in the two excerpts. Do you have your answer now? Excellent. Okay, the ancient Babylonians and Mesopotamians developed methods of measurement that are still in use today. Great job! At last, remember these points, students. Okay, your story elements of the text, the ancient Middle East, and an objective summary presents central ideas and most important details in a text. Thank you.